Hello, wild ones. This is Dark Moon Chiron, the little corner of the universe where together we illuminate the secrets of your dreams, your subconscious, and your forgotten self. This is a storytelling dream interpretation podcast, and I'm your guide, Megan Rose McMullen, the Wild Dream Sorceress. This podcast is structured in 3 parts. Beginning the dream journey, I share the story of a sleeper's adventure. Whether the dream is my own or one that was submitted, I speak in first person for anonymity because let's face it, sometimes our dreams can be quite wild. Once we follow the dreamer's quest entirely, we decipher each piece of the labyrinth, unlocking new levels of consciousness along the way. Then the enchanted tale ends with an intuitive reading on the inner workings of the hero's psyche, hopefully leaving you, the listeners, with a new understanding of the innate magic and power that lies inside the hidden world within each of us. Allow the story to transform your ordinary waking lives into your wildest dreams. Or at the very least, strap in and enjoy this imaginary ride. Are you ready to get wild? So today I want to talk about the fact that we spend 1/3 of our life sleeping. I think it's really incredible to hear when people are saying, I hear a lot of people actually talk about how, like, when they're really hyper focused, that sleep becomes a burden because it takes up this valuable time, and that people aren't really learning or spending time using this time for anything else besides sleeping. And I think that this is a really common misconception, especially when the fact that we dream every time we go to sleep. There's some occasions where you might not actually be capable of remembering your dreams because of, drugs or alcohol or specific reasons, supplements or medicines or something like that. But dreams matter. All dreams matter, and it's a tool to be utilized. We do spend 1/3 of our time sleeping, and for me, dreams are just another tool to be used. And it's not just part of the woo-woo or the spiritual community. Dreams are actually have science behind them, there's psychology behind them, and they actually have a few things that I can teach you. Dreams can problem solve. You can go to sleep and wake up with your problem, like a solution to your problem. Thomas Edison used to do this, take cat naps in order to focus on the problem, sleep, and then come up with a solution when you wake up. Dreams can also be instructions from your subconscious that says, here are your desires and goals, your needs, and here are the things that are getting in the way, that are blocking it. It's also it kind of points to the path of least resistance. It's like, if you want to get from point A to point B, here are the things that are in your way. Some people believe, and I think this is true, that can kind of tell you what will happen, not in the sense of premonitions, but outcomes. So there's a lot of possibilities when you make a choice. There's possibilities that can happen when you make that choice, but the probability, your subconscious knows that the probability will be a specific outcome if you make a specific choice. It can actually help you face things that might be kind of scary or overwhelming to the nervous system, like strong emotions, repressed emotions, healing repressed from trauma, repressed memories, that kind of thing. And it's also it's kind of can tell you piece by piece. And I will share about repressed memories in another podcast, but I kind of want to just direct to the fact that dreams are tools. It has been believed for a really long time that dreams are nonsense, that they don't really make a lot of sense. They're just our brain's way of processing our day, and that's like about it. But it actually can lead you through many, many paths. Another one of these is, besides the healing, the problem solving, and the instructions. It can be a fun way to play out different scenarios that might be like kind of like choosing. So if you are in a path and there's multiple avenues and choices that you can make, our brain likes to go down those paths and kind of see what it would be like playing out the scenario, right? And this is why a lot of people enjoy lucid dreaming, because what they believe is that the more lucid and conscious that you become during dreaming, you can play out these scenarios. And instead of being a victim to fate and allowing your brain to kind of pick the choice for you, you can actually be conscious and like kind of control your waking life through your dreams. Because there's like a saying that says, we aren't what we think or eat, we're actually what we dream. And so in our dreams, we play out these scenarios, we go down these paths, and the subconscious, like in the dreams, pick the path that is the best probability that you'll pick based on the energy and the choices and the thoughts that you're believing, right? We are our thoughts. We are a combination of like our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, our needs, and we kind of make choices that are like the same. So what's that saying? Like, if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? So like our brain our subconscious picks out these things based on what we're continually thinking and doing and feeling. And a lot of the stuff is always the same. Like, just like 95% of our brain is kind of on autopilot or not really utilized or working per se consciously, we have like 95% of our days pretty much the same. We go drive the same, we eat the same stuff, we pick out the same seats, we sit the same places, we visit the same thing, we have the same conversations. There's so much of the same that our brains see all these possibilities and then kind of condense these possibilities into what would be the probability of, like, if you made this decision or you spent your day. And generally we keep repeating the same day, kind of like a unconscious Groundhog's Day. And for me, I think that this is really cool because now that we're aware of it, now that we're having this conversation, we can become more aware of it and kind of use these dreams for all of this kind of stuff so that we can manifest or call in or be a magnet for the things that we really desire and use that. So there's a lot of value that can be added to using your dreams as a tool to heal and to feel into things that might not be easy to face in our waking life. And yeah, so I think like it's really important to know that the three things, like, or the four things, is like, one, it can be great for problem solving. And this requires some like practice. There is a 21-day challenge, free challenge that I have that can have you become a more advanced dreamer within 21 days. But problem solving, and why I brought that up is because there's like a practice of like asking questions that you want the answers to right before you fall asleep. Healing specific traumas, repressed memories, feelings, etc., that might not be that fun to kind of face during our waking life. The calling in or manifesting the life that you want. And then specific instructions and awarenesses that might be insights that might be coming based on choices or decisions that you make, which is instructions. Like, if you want to get from point A to point B, this is your option. And why I'm such a big component of dreams, like, one, I've always been a dreamer, like I said before, but the biggest thing is there's like, I think when I first got sober, I so I got sober in 2018. I got out of recovery. I left the program in 2019, something like that. And I was there for like a year and a half. And so I think this was somewhere close to like a year, maybe a little bit before a year. And I remember having this dream where I had like these earrings in my hand, and they were like precious. And these earrings were actual earrings that I had in real life that I had gotten from like one of my graduations. I think it might have been high school or college or something. There's the precious earrings, and they were like, in my mind, the most expensive jewelry that I've ever received. They were like supposedly 14 karat gold or whatever, and they were like diamonds or something. I don't know. And I was holding them in my hand in the dream in this gymnasium, and people were throwing these balls and at me, like battle balls. And I don't know if you guys ever played battle, but in high school or in middle school and high school, we played this thing called battle, where there would be like these foam balls, and they would be on the line, and then you would run and get them, and it's kind of like dodgeball, but it wasn't with dodgeballs. They were with these battle balls, and we called it battle. If you caught the ball, the person got back in and stuff. Anyway, there are some of these battle balls in the dream. There's some basketballs, tennis balls. There's just like a bunch of balls, and they were like coming at me. And some of them are sports, some of them for games, but it was like everyone who was throwing these at me were trying to make me play. They wanted me to play. It wasn't like there wasn't male intent. There was like they were throwing them to play, like, come on, play. Like, but in my mind, I was like, my job was to protect these like earrings because they were so precious, and everyone kept throwing them, and they kept like jiggling in my hands. And I was getting frustrated because like I was so focused on like protecting these that I didn't even think about like what the other options were. Like I was just so focused on protecting these earrings that like I was getting frustrated at other people, like, stop throwing things at me. Like I can't play right now. Like, stop it. They're throwing these things at me. I'm juggling. I kept dropping the balls. I was trying to play, but at the same time I was worried about things. I never thought to myself like, oh, I could put it in my pocket or I could put them away. You know, I didn't have that much capacity because I was just focused on these earrings. And when I woke up, I was in recovery, and I was telling this dream, and it had hit me. Like the meaning of this dream hit me was like, I'm so focused on these specific jewels, like this specific outcome, or like the jewels represented, or the earrings represented like achievements, right? Like it was like a gift when I graduated whatever, college or high school. And I'm so focused on these achievements and the gifts that come from this achievement that I'm losing track of the fact that like I can have fun and I can play, and that I don't have to juggle all of the balls. And like the reason that like the balls are dropping is because I'm juggling so many things. Like that's what happens. And so I was telling this dream to the people at, my sponsor and stuff, and it hit me with literally the interpretation. And I realized like dreams are so much more than that. And I realized that was one of my coping mechanisms. And as I kind of analyzed this dream, I started to kind of open up to the fact that like dreams are just more than the mind's way of processing. It's actually telling us a little bit about ourselves. It's getting us to know ourselves on a deeper level. And I could use this information or insights to make new changes, right? Like if I want to play more and I want to have more fun. And it wasn't long after that I left recovery because it was there was so much fear about relapse and stuff that it was a lot of pressure. And I'm still sober this day, and I have my own recovery program that's not in the rooms, but I just know that like I started really looking at like my life and being like, one of the reasons I drank was because I needed a way to escape. I needed a way to let loose because I was so hyper focused. But then when I got into the rooms, I became hyper focused on that as well. And I was kind of using that as a coping mechanism that was kind of becoming where, again, with the blinders on. And life is a lot, like if you take off your blinders, life is much bigger than just whatever you're focusing on. And when you focus on some things, depending on if it's in lack mentality or not, you're going to have more of that, what you focus on, right? And if you're going to find, if you're looking for mistakes, you're going to find them, especially if you're going with a microscope, right? You're like magnifying specific things, it's going to get that much bigger. And so this is what I like, one of the first times that I started to really open up my mind to the possibility that dreams were more than this. And also, because of this, when I quit, so I had night terrors and nightmares my whole life. I never dreamt of anything happy. Very seldomly did I ever dream, like rare. Did I ever dream of something that was happy or not nightmare or night terrors. When I was a kid, I would sleepwalk and talk, and I would fall off the bed and I would roll everywhere. And this is a really common thing for people who have complex PTSD. And I personally have been diagnosed with that. And I would have these awful, awful dreams. And they were all like, the theme of it up until I was 31 was like hopelessness. Like I would be fighting and fighting and fighting. And like the outcomes of it would just be so like, there's no way. Like I just knew that no matter how much I tried, I would just never get it. Like I would always do it. And there was always this part of like where I would either have to totally surrender to my fate of death, or I would have to let go. And that was usually how I got out of the dream, right? Like letting go or surrendering. So I always have been a dreamer, and I literally remember dreams, so many dreams. But up until I was 31, when I quit drinking, I never had good dreams. And I didn't realize that they were pointing towards healing. Like my nightmares and night terrors were pointing towards this healing that I needed to do from complex PTSD and having a traumatic childhood, over and over, repetitive trauma over and over again. And when I started recovery, I started to get new dreams where there was like frustration and some intense emotions, but like maybe anger or frustration, maybe a little bit of jealousy or hatred. But it wasn't this like despair or hopelessness, or like so much so where I would wake up. Like there was a point in my life where I spent a whole month like not wanting to go to sleep. I had such bad insomnia, and it was just like my anxiety was so high. And at the time, I didn't have the word for anxiety. I didn't admit that I had anxiety because my anxiety didn't look like other people's anxiety. And so I was like, I went to a therapist because I had insomnia. And this is when I realized that I had complex PTSD, but I wasn't yet ready to work through it. And just telling someone the one time that I told somebody, like the therapist or whatever, it actually gave me some relief. And then it wasn't long after that, maybe 2 more years, where I would be drinking or using, and I would eventually get sober. And when I got sober and I started working on that, that's when my nightmares and night terrors shifted into still intense, but like the more that my healing, and progressively as I continue to heal and to work through these emotions, my dreams shift with me and become more helpful, not just like fear-based, but they come to the point where they're like, I know that my subconscious knows me my subconscious knows me to a T, and knows my desires and my needs and my goals. wants nothing but me to have all of these things. And so anytime that you feel this like tension where you feel pulled in two opposite directions, where like part of you really wants something and the other part of you is like, but I can't seem to do it, or I can't seem to get there, or something's blocking me. These two things is generally means that the ego or the subconscious is there's shadow. The conscious and the subconscious, or the ego and the shadow, are like pulling each other. The other one I called it part X and the shadow. They're pulling at each other, and it's really about bringing them together and kind of, figuring out the best plan of action with it. And this is how it's really helpful, because we are consciously aware of what we want in our waking life all the time. And we can say it and we can tell people and we can have these plans and we're going to do it, but move forward with the plan and you quote unquote fail. Inevitably, it shows you that like there's part of you that's not quite there. And our dreams can tell us this, right? And they can tell us so much about ourselves, right? And the one thing that I want to specifically talk about is I personally got to work through my sexuality through my dreams. Granted, in my conscious life, I had been going through these experiences that kind of given me breadcrumbs. And I've seen representation in media, which is very helpful, which I think is so important to have representation in media, because it's really helpful to anybody who's going through anything that they see in their lives, because it's just really profound to see representation and then kind of have that framework. But anyway, I was kind of getting these breadcrumbs throughout my sexuality story, but I wasn't quite there yet. And there was a lot of repressed homophobia and like internalized homophobia for my family, for my community. Yeah. And so I felt like, anyway, I started to see this representation and kind of this breadcrumbs over probably a year, excuse me, over like the year or so. And then one day, I think it was in 2020, I had a dream, and when I woke up, I knew I was pansexual. And so I think that this was like really interesting, because it took a dream showing me and telling me, and I woke up and I was just so giddy to like have finally understood myself and to understood like that this made sense and this feels right, and this label of queerness and stuff like that makes me feel good, and I feel like I know myself a little bit more. And I think this just shows that there are a lot of things like this, like not just sexuality, but healing and parts of ourselves, that our identities are, when we want to be unapologetically ourselves, we can go through our dreams and kind of suss out what exactly might be going on inside of us that we might not actually be consciously aware of, but that's deep in our soul. I believe our subconscious is connected directly to our soul, and our soul is directly connected to divine or spirituality and the collective unconscious. So I totally, that's like, if that's the case, like you can follow your heart, but sometimes we're not consciously aware of what our heart wants. So we're operating on these old paradigms that are created by our conditioning. And when we're functioning on our conditioning, we're not actually authentic to who we are. We're just running these programs, which goes back to our dreams, right? We're running these programs and our brain is like working through them and deciding what the probability is. And so the more we become consciously aware and use our dreams as tools to kind of guide us, we become more authentic to ourselves. We know ourselves more. We have a deeper understanding, and that all leads to more acceptance and love and gratitude. And we get clarity on purpose. We get clarity for instructions. We get clarity on blocks. We even can become magnets for abundance and creativity and flow. You can, if you're stuck or you have something like writer's block or something like that, you can use your dreams to understand what this block may be. And you can also use it for inspiration. And there's practices. So why I brought up the 21-day challenge is that there's practices and rituals that you can use to become a more advanced dreamer. And the more advanced you become, the more you get to like be consciously aware, and you can do amazing things and use this 1/3 of your life for personal growth, for expansion, for abundance, for adventure, for fun, some play. And it really, I truly believe that dreams are a very underused tool that we have in our toolbox for healing, as well as manifestation or problem solving. So kind of just wanted to show you like what my story is, and I can tell you a little bit more about my sexuality journey if you guys are interested in that, both the conscious version and the unconscious, how it came to fruition, if you would like to know more. But I'm also going to tell you in other episodes too about how I've actually got to deal with a few repressed memories that I wasn't repressed, meaning like I'm not aware of that this trauma happened, but it was stored in my body and my mind. And it was kind of unfolding in my dreams where I was starting to get all of these like repeated signs, and like how I kind of used that to like uncover these traumatic experiences I had that opened me up to more deeper healing and this like understanding of myself. And so I really do believe that like we instead of hating the fact that we have to sleep for 1/3 of our life, we can start using that time to really open up the new doors and gateways towards connecting with our soul, connecting with higher consciousness, our higher self, as well as the collective consciousness, and really getting to know ourselves so that we can become magnets and build a life beyond our wildest dreams. So I don't know if you heard this, but we have a monthly meeting that shows up every 13th of the month where you can drop in and we can discuss everything dreams, dream content, dream meanings. How do you know the shadow work, anything like that? We talk about it, and we meet every month, and you can be a part of this group. You can drop in what it is. You can buy 3-month packs, 6-month packs, annual. It's there. And this community loves dreams. And so you're never going to be like, hey, guess what I dreamt last night? And someone's not going to go, oh God, don't tell me again what you dreamt like that. Nope, not here, not in this community. We love dreams and we want to hear all about it. So if you want to, drop in the show notes in the description and be a part of the dream group. Thanks for listening to Dark Moon Chiron. I hope you found what you're looking for and enjoyed the ride. If you'd like to share your dream adventures with the world, please head over to our website, darkmoonchiron.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, there are multiple ways to donate and support us. You can find them in the show notes. All content shared in this podcast is copyrighted by Dark Moon Chiron Incorporated 2022. All rights reserved. None of its content can be used without prior authorization. So until next time, dream big and be wild.